Well, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to another in the series Conversations Beyond the Book, hosted by the Jamaican Copyright Licensing Agency, JAMCOPY. My name is Philippa Davies, Assistant General Manager at JAMCOPY, and I'll be your moderator for this afternoon's conversation. We're so glad to have our affiliates in the house, and we hope others will join us as the afternoon progresses. But just to say that it is our pleasure as the National Rights Management Organization of Text and Image-Based Works in Jamaica to host this series for our stakeholders as part of our contribution to supporting the creative industries, and in particular, those who are in the literary and artistic field. As you know, JAMCOPY, we work to protect and provide a seamless access to copyright content. And we have been in the business for 24 years, serving nearly 1,000 creators in the literary and artistic fields. And the purpose of our conversations beyond the book is to look at the wider dimensions of the business of creative expressions. It's more than just writing and publishing, but there's also inspiration for creativity and the actual writing and painting and illustrating techniques to producing the work and marketing, but also the avenues to enjoying the fruit of their labors. And so the purpose through this series is to look at practical topics of interest to our stakeholders for their personal and their creative development. We began last June looking at resilience, key to dealing with life stresses. We were still in the midst of the COVID years. And then in July, we looked at estate planning last year, and then we went on to retirement in October. And so we're continuing in that theme to help our stakeholders prepare for the later years. And so this afternoon, we'll be looking at Pensions 101. And we're pleased to have our guest presenter, Mrs. Sanya Goff, who will be introduced very shortly. So we're just so glad that you could join us this afternoon. We are recording the presentation to upload to the JAMCOPY YouTube channel, where you can visit to review previous presentations that were made in 2020, as well as the other conversations that we held in 2021. So I'm actually now going to hand over to our new CEO for JAMCOPY, Mrs. Karine Miller. She joined us in March of this year. Also on the call is our new licensing and client services manager, Ms. Jamila Kasim, who joined JAMCOPY in April. Welcome again, ladies. And I'm going to hand over to Mrs. Miller, who will be introducing our speaker.
Good afternoon, all. Thank you for joining us. And it is my privilege to introduce Mrs. Sanya Goff. Now, Mrs. Sanya Goff has a very extensive profile, but I'll just give you certain key points. She's a partner of the firm Hart, Muirhead and Fatto. She is the president of the Pension Industry Association of Jamaica. She recently was named as one of the Jamaica Gleaners Distinguished Awardees in Law. She's also a member of the UK Association of Pension Lawyers and the International Pension and Employee Benefits Lawyers Association, and the 2017 recipient of its Libby Slater Award for her outstanding contribution to the development of pensions law in Jamaica. She is very experienced in the area. She may look like 21, but she was actually called to the bar in 2003. She loves to travel, and she has a fabulous baby boy. Well, not a baby, but she has a fabulous little boy and a great husband, and she is a beautiful person inside and out, and she has the most vibrant and bubbly personality. So I know that you will definitely enjoy her presentation. Join me in welcoming Mrs. Sanya Goff.
Thank you, Karine, and thank you, Philippa, and afternoon again, Jamila. So afternoon, everyone. I'm happy to be here to present an area and a topic that I'm passionate about. I get very excited when it comes to talking about pensions. And I hope that this presentation will leave you with some things to think about. We're going to talk about a number of issues. We're going to talk about basics around pensions and our pension structure in Jamaica. We're going to look at generational wealth. We're going to look at ways in which we can ensure that we improve our financial resilience, and retirement security. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so some of you may know that in Jamaica, we have what's called a 3-pillar pension system. And this actually is a system or type of system that you see in a lot of countries globally, even countries with well-developed pension systems. The first pillar is our national insurance scheme, and that's a social security scheme that we have in Jamaica. Now, those of you who are employed, as in you are employed on somebody's payroll, you'll naturally be making your NIS contributions, and your employer makes contributions as well. If you're self-employed, most people don't know this, you should actually, by law, you're required to make NIS contributions. And so your NIS scheme is a compulsory contributory funded social security scheme. Employed persons, voluntary contributors, as well as non-contributors. And it provides several benefits in the forms of a pension or a grant. A lot of people think the NIS pension is the only thing that you get as a benefit in the NIS system, but there are funeral grants, maternity benefits, disability benefits. And so there are a number of things that you ought to be aware of that you get under the NIS system, because if you're making contributions, you should be able to get your benefits. The second pillar is what we talk about a lot, the private pensions, right? And that's regulated by the Financial Services Commission. And it consists of 2 different types of pension arrangements: approved retirement schemes and approved superannuation funds. And I'm going to talk about those 2 a little bit in the next slide. But essentially, it's a private sector plan. So in addition to what you have to contribute to NIS, you will voluntarily make these pension contributions in the private pension sector. And then the third pillar is voluntary savings, anything that you can add to bolster your savings, savings program. In addition to the NIS and private pensions, it would be your voluntary savings represented by the third pillar, right? To understand a little bit more superannuation funds versus retirement schemes. So remember I said under the second pillar, which is where we're going to spend some time today, you have approved superannuation funds and you have approved retirement schemes. Now, a superannuation fund is a pension arrangement where the contributions are made by employers and employees on behalf of employees. What this means is that you go and you work for Grace Kennedy, and Grace Kennedy has a pension plan. You're required to participate in that pension plan. It's called an approved superannuation fund. The employer usually makes a contribution and you make a contribution. You get a pension benefit when you hit retirement. Or if you leave the company before you hit retirement, you can port, that means transfer that benefit to another company, or you can transfer it to an approved retirement scheme. An approved retirement scheme now, we're talking about Scotia Bridge, Proven Rock, NCB Smart. You see all the advertisements all over the place. These are for people who are self-employed, or they could be employed, but their employer doesn't have a pension plan, because it's not a requirement under law that employers have pension plans. So if you go and work for a company and the company does not have a pension plan, you can take charge of your own retirement security and contribute to an approved retirement scheme. Or if you're self-employed, you're doing your own thing, you can contribute to an approved retirement scheme. You also have situations where you go and work for a company and the company has a pension plan, but you are not eligible to join the pension plan. The pension plan is there for a certain category of workers and you don't fall into that category. If that's the case, you can also contribute to what's called an approved retirement scheme. Currently though, you cannot be an active contributor to more than one pension arrangement. So if you go and work for Grace Kennedy and Grace Kennedy has a pension plan, you are required by law to join that pension plan, and you can't contribute to any other arrangement. You can contribute up to 20% in that pension plan, that's great, but you can't do 5% in Grace Kennedy and choose to do another 5% at Scotia Bridge. The intention is that the law will change in that area and that you will be able to contribute to more than one pension arrangement up to a maximum, the statutory maximum of 20%. But that's not yet the law. And so right now, you can only contribute to one arrangement at a time. Similarly, if you're self-employed and you choose to contribute to Scotia Bridge, that's it. You have to be contributing to Scotia Bridge. You cannot actively contribute to Scotia Bridge and also actively contribute to NCB. All right, everybody with me? All right. So one of the questions I get often is, what are the benefits of saving through a pension plan versus saving on my own? A lot of people say, I can do it on my own. I can get better returns. I'm smarter than any investment manager out there. Why would I do this? No, the thing is that saving on your own and saving through a pension plan is not one or the other. If you think back to when I talked about the 3-pillar system, that third pillar is voluntary savings. So the second pillar represents pension plan savings, and then the third pillar is the voluntary savings. So to the extent that you can, we don't want it to be mutually exclusive. You should contribute to both, right? You should do both. Contribute to a pension arrangement and also do additional personal savings. But the benefit, the number one key benefit of a pension arrangement and saving to a pension arrangement is the tax advantages. All your contributions to a pension plan, whether it be your employer-sponsored pension plan or an approved retirement scheme, are made before your income is taxed. So if you earn $100 for the month, you are able to, let's just say you are going to contribute 20%, you're able to, meaning 20% being the full amount allowed on the law, full tax-free amount allowed on the law, you can contribute $20 to your retirement scheme. And then $80 is what's taxed, versus $100 is what you earn, your $100 is taxed, 25% is taken off, and then you contribute or make savings on that $75. You with me? In other words, you're able to contribute more because it is on your gross income and not your net income. And then the tax advantages continue because all the accretions of your contributions, all the interest that's earned on your contributions, those accretions are tax-free as well. But I don't want to give you the impression that there's no tax at all. And sometimes the conversation around the tax benefits for pension savings, I think it's incomplete, because a lot of people walk away thinking there are these tax benefits and not recognizing that when you get to retirement, what we call in the pension space, the decumulation phase, that is when your income is taxed. Your pension income is taxed. So your contributions are before tax. All the earnings on your contributions don't get taxed. But when you hit the stage of retirement, when you're ready to pull down your benefit now, decumulation phase, that is when taxes are applied. So what we say in Jamaica, the appropriate terminology is that it's not tax-free, but there are tax advantages because it's tax deferred, all right? And then where your employer has a pension plan, it's free money. So if you go and work for Grace Kennedy and you contribute 5% of your income to their pension plan, and Grace Kennedy is also matching with 5%, that's 5% of income that you never had before. So you always want to seek out those benefits. If you're with an employer and your pension plan is there, it's a good thing because that's free money that's coming into your pension pot. It's also easy to pass benefits. It's also easy to pass benefits on death. Are you guys seeing the screen share thingy? Is it
Yes, we are. We are seeing it. Thanks.
I'm seeing.
Yeah, I'm trying to see how I get it off.
We're seeing everything. We're seeing the whole screen.
No, but there's a thing there's a thing behind it. There's actually content on the slide behind it.
I'm not seeing behind, just black behind it.
Hold on.
We're seeing the tax advantage slide right now.
I know it's kind of freezing up on me. Give me 1 second. Sorry, guys.
No problem.
Okay. Okay, so what do you see protection from creditors on your screen?
Yes, we do. Yes, we
Okay,
do.
cool. Got it. All right, got it. Okay, the other benefit is that it's easy to pass benefits to beneficiaries on your death. Because as it stands now, if you have a house that you own and you want to pass it on to your daughter and you die, you have to have provided for it in your will. You guys talked about estate planning, so you'd have had to have provided for it in your will. Or if you didn't have a will, your administrator would have to administer your estate in order for your daughter to get your house. And you have to go through this whole probate process. It's a whole long, convoluted thing. It's expensive, it's time consuming, etc. So, and that's the way you pass property. That's you property generally to your beneficiaries through your will. But your pension benefit, you don't have to put that in your will in order for a beneficiary to get it. You can actually name Sanya Goff as your beneficiary of your pension benefit. And if you die, I'll get it. Once I can establish proof of death, I don't have to probate a will. I don't have to go to Administrator General. I don't have to do anything like that. If I am the named beneficiary for your pension benefit, I will get that benefit once death occurs, and I'm able to prove death. I just present it to the trustees and the investment manager, and I will get the whatever death benefit is owed to you, owed to your beneficiary, I will get it. And so, and I'm going to talk about appointing beneficiaries a little later, but that's really important. And it's a part of how the law sees the kind of the sanctity of a pension benefit, in a sense. In other words, it's so important to preserve someone's pension benefit and to ensure that their beneficiaries get it, that it's not tied up in estate issues and probate and delays and all of that. You can name your daughter, your dependent brother, your spouse to get your pension benefit in the event of your death. And there are a number of different iterations of how that benefit is distributed. Because it doesn't have to just be one person who would get it. And once you're able to establish proof of death, the benefit will automatically be paid out to you. And that's a very, very big advantage, especially in Jamaica, where our probate process can be quite time consuming. And the last is protection from creditors. Unlike, money sitting in your bank account, where creditors, if you owed somebody, creditors can come after, get a court order and seize and put a lien on your bank account and your car and the mattress that you sleep on at night. The reality is that when it comes to your pension benefit, it's protected from creditors. That benefit is not easily attached by creditors. Now, I say that, but I will say there was a court case I would say maybe 2 years ago, where a creditor was able to demonstrate to the court that there was someone who was owed a pension benefit. The pension benefit was to be paid out by the investment managers, and the person just refused to take the benefit. So the benefit sat in the pension plan, essentially. The person refused to take the benefit, and the court found that that person was acting essentially with bad intentions. And they were able to attach a lien on the benefit in that specific scenario. But that's a very unusual case. And it was a case where the conduct of the debtor demonstrated an intention to circumvent. And so that was a little peculiar, but generally you are not able to attach, a creditor can't attach or put a lien on your pension benefit. All right. All right, so this is the tax advantage screen. Now, I'm not really like a number savvy person, but I think the screen, I think the numbers are self-explanatory. So I've put out 3 scenarios here. Have you guys gone through this kind of thing before when you talked about retirement?
No, we hadn't.
Okay, good. Okay, so this is just really a numerical representation of what the numbers look like when you save before with a pension or no pension. All right, so we talk about here, if you look at scenario 1, where somebody doesn't make any contributions, basic or voluntary. This is in a retirement scheme. This applies to a retirement scheme or a superannuation fund. Their total income is 160,000. And so their take-home pay, their annual take-home pay is 1.8. Total take-home pay is 1.8 plus savings, right? Total income tax paid, is 160,000. Total take-home pay is 1.8. And so that's the amount plus savings, assuming no additional savings. If they did 5% contributions, only made some basic contributions, right? That's $100,000. And so their total income tax that they pay is actually less. Are you with me? It's actually 128,000 because remember, you take out the $100,000 basic contributions from your $2 million salary, and that is what is taxed. So in scenario 1, the entire $2 million pensionable salary is taxed. That's this amount up here. If you see my little cursor, $2 million, it's taxed. And you pay total income tax of $160,000, so you take home 1.8. In scenario 2, when you make a 5% contribution, that contribution is backed out of your salary of your $2 million before your income is taxed. And so you actually pay less income tax. You take home more money. And so when you think about what your total take-home pay and savings is a take-home pay of 1.7 plus the $100,000 that you would have contributed to the pension plan, your long-term savings in your pension plan. Scenario 2 just demonstrates the point even further, where let us say you're going to make 10% contributions. So in total, your contributions amount to 200,000. You pay even less tax, $96,000. You take home even more money because less of your income is taxed and more of your income is saved. And scenario 4 just builds on the same concept. So these are just some numbers to play with so you can actually see the difference when you choose to contribute to a pension arrangement and take advantage of the tax benefit than if you were to take all your money post-taxing and then choose to save. You end up saving less, you end up taking home less. All right. And remember as well, when you're saving after tax, those contributions attract a tax, withholding tax. Remember that. So remember I said your accretions on your pension benefits when you contribute, those accretions don't attract tax. When it's not in a pension system, if you just go and invest in a unit trust, those accretions attract tax. So you always have a taxable event when you're not in a pension arrangement. Okay. A typical question that I get is, how can someone know when they've saved enough to retire? Is there a formula? And there isn't a magic formula, but the general target is 70 to 85% of your pre-retirement income. And the truth is that we're really trying to talk about meeting basic needs: food, shelter, increased healthcare costs. And so if you aim for what's called a replacement ratio, that's a technical term, but how much of your income should I have when I hit retirement? It's about 70 to 85%. And then also one of the things that we need to think about, and we'll talk about it a little later, is the extent to which women are a lot more vulnerable than men when it comes to retirement security. But that's really the goal. And when you save in a retirement scheme, most of the investment managers in Jamaica, we're talking about JMMB, NCB, Proven, Guardian, etc., their statements, their benefit statements that they give you are able to project out to retirement to tell you, okay, if you continue saving $2 every month as you've been doing, this is what you're going to probably have when you hit 60 or 65. And so you have an idea of what you're going to retire with. And then they're able to guide you to say, okay, I want to be able to have, X amount in my pension pot when I hit retirement. I want to know what 70 to 85 looks like. And they will be able to say, listen, the $2, that's not going to make it. You need to be saving $22. And so having those conversations with the investment houses, any of the service providers, is very important. Don't just save, understand what you're saving towards and whether or not what you're saving will be sufficient. All right. I want to talk briefly about assignment of pensions. Now, our Pensions Act says that your pension right shall be non-assignable. So assigning a pension right involves the act of transferring to another all or part of the property right or interest in the pension benefit. Why is this important? There are a lot of places you'll go to for a car loan, for a same-day loan, payday, quick, easy loan, all of those kind of organizations or facilities, where the paperwork actually says that you assign any pension benefit you have. And that kind of language is void, it's unenforceable. Even if you sign to it, they could not actually enforce it. It would be an illegal enforcement. Now, obviously, if nobody knows about it, then nobody knows about it. But you could challenge the ability for that creditor to come after your pension benefit. It's not allowed. The law doesn't allow you to assign your pension benefit. So if you know that you have, $2 million saved up in a retirement scheme at Scotiabridge, you couldn't go and borrow against it and say, listen, I have $2 million in Scotiabridge. I'm going to be 60 next year. Lend me some money against that money in Scotiabridge. That's not allowed. It's void. It's invalid. It could not be enforced. No, that's different. So that's the situation when it comes to your pension benefit. Now, when you hit 60 and you start to take your pension benefit, the minute it hits your account, your $2 million, and you pull it all down and it hits your account, that's different. You can pledge that and put a lien on it and use it as cash security for a loan or a car purchase or any manner of things. You can do that once that benefit has been realized. But the pension benefit in your retirement scheme account, in your Grace Kennedy Superannuation Fund pension plan account, you cannot pledge or assign that benefit. It's very important because this language appears in a lot of these documents that you see, these kind of standard template, like I said, same day loan, payday loan type of things, car loans as well. And sophisticated organizations have this language in their documentation. And there are people who big professionals who don't know that they can't actually, it's not allowed, it's not lawful for you to pledge your pension benefit. I wanted to circle back to that whole discussion that we were having about designated beneficiaries. Now, I'm encouraging everybody who does not already have a retirement scheme account, please join a retirement scheme. So join the Scotia Bridge, join JMMB, whatever it's called, join Proven Rock, join a retirement scheme. But it's important that when you do that, or if you're in your an employer pension plan, participate as much as you can in that pension plan. Don't just contribute the basic, because you remember the table that I showed you a few slides ago, the more you contribute, the bigger the benefit that you would have at the end of it, and the bigger the tax savings to you. It's important that you appoint a beneficiary, because if you don't appoint a beneficiary, it just goes to your estate and it becomes very difficult to claim. Appoint a beneficiary. Ensure that if there are any changes in that beneficial status, that you make those changes. You go to your retirement scheme provider and you make those changes. If you have 3 children or 4 siblings or more than one person you would want to get your pension benefit, indicate the allocation, because the assumption is that it is equal if you don't actually allocate between people. And as I said before, it will go to a legal personal representative, your administrator or your executor, if you haven't actually made a designation. But you want to make that designation because that money can go to the person right away. I'll share a story about why this is important. There was a man in Jamaica, and it's a true story, but you can't make this kind of thing up in this country. So there's a man, married, was a part of a pension plan that an employer had, and he and the wife followed, you know, I guess you could say separate. She migrates to the US. It's one of those things where he has his wife, she lives in the US, she hardly comes to Jamaica, and he starts seeing another woman, moves her into the house, and everywhere you turn is this man and this woman, right? He's at the staff functions, he's at the long service award for the company. As far as everybody concerned, this is the man's wife, because they don't know of this wife who he legally has, who living in the United States from a long time ago. So this particular pension plan had the provision for a spousal benefit, meaning if you died, your spouse would get a benefit. He dies, and Miss Lady, the one who he moved into the house, turns up to claim the spousal benefit. Now, remember, a man can only have one wife, you know. No matter what Jamaican men may think, you can only have one wife. So she turns up and she gets paid the spousal benefit for years, almost 10 years, because nobody questioned whether or not she was really legitimately the spouse, because she did everywhere with him. She turned up at the staff function. Nobody had to question it. This man nobody checked. And this was really carelessness on the part of the administrator of the pension plan. But that aside, the fact of the matter is that he never updated any documentation. Nobody was looking at anything. They just paid out to this lady. 10 years of payments later, the wife turned up for the spousal benefit. So here it is. Now, remember, in this particular case, he could have provided for this other woman had he appointed her as a beneficiary. But we have this whole mix-up where the documentation isn't clear. The people are making assumptions. And so you need to, and by the way, in that particular case, what happened is that essentially the wrong person was paid. And so properly under law, we have a concept called unjust enrichment. Basically, you've gotten money that you were never entitled to. So properly under the law, the 10 years of payments ought to have been paid back. You know, this woman don't spend that money already. 10 paid back. And this woman would have gotten the 10 years worth of payments and paying forward until she died. But given the I would say the negligence on the part of the administrator, they bore the responsibility for compensating the lady. So they discontinued contributions to the woman, but they didn't try to recoup it from her, because they felt it would have been a bit, would have been difficult and probably impossible to get that money back. And then they paid 10 years worth of spousal benefits to this woman. But the point is that it really comes down to ensuring that you properly designate your beneficiaries. And of course, this is a lesson for investment managers and administrators to do the due diligence and ensuring that the documentation they have is up to date. So I want to just make that point for those of you who have retirement scheme accounts as already, ensure that you regularly update your beneficiary information. It properly reflects who you want to get it if you die. So, you know, You may have put down somebody who was particularly important to you 5 years ago, and they may not be that important to you now. You may want to change that, right? So that's why I want to make that point, that it can really be problematic if you don't ensure that your beneficiary information is correct. Okay, I want to also just kind of step back a little bit. So we've talked about you know, types of pension plans in Jamaica, why it's important to save for retirement. You know, we looked at the tax advantages. We looked at you know, what's the kind of target replacement ratio. We looked at generally other benefits, protection from creditors, easy to appoint and pass benefits to beneficiaries, etc. But I want us to understand what we're facing in Jamaica and why it is important to ensure that you take control of your retirement security. We have in Jamaica what's called a worsening old age dependency. That means that the percentage of people who are age 65 and older, the number of people who are age 65 and older as a percentage of the working population, which we define as 15 to 64, that's actually increasing. Meaning by the time we hit, I think they said 20, what is it? I think the estimate is 2050, we will have more people in Jamaica 65 and older than we will have younger than 65. So that's a dependency ratio, meaning all of these older persons or senior citizens will have a kind of dependency on the working class because they can't take care of themselves. And this has increased significantly since the 1960s. A big part of it as well is that our population has been contracting. A lot of people are migrating, declining fertility rates. And so what we find is that we are facing a situation where our elderly will not have retirement security. And I say it all the time, old age poverty is real. Each one of us in this room can think of someone who lived one of the best lives ever. Lived great when they were earning money. It takes one bad health diagnosis. It takes one poor investment, one mismanagement of your money, and you could find yourself in a situation where you don't have anything, especially if you didn't save for retirement. So you need to think about your retirement savings. That's something that you do. You kind of just like, for those of us who tithe, you just kind of do it and keep moving. Same thing, put your money away, put your 5%, your 10%, and you just do it automatically. Whatever else you have in terms of your income, you can do what you want with that. But just have that money and that savings happening, because you can hit old age and have nothing and be destitute. And you don't, that kind of what I call intergenerational poverty and intergenerational pressure is quite real in this country. You know, we have an expectation that our children will take care of us. So for those of us who have children, we say, me pick me on my pension, we laugh about it. When our child is doing actuarial sciences, we're like, Lord, that's my pension right there, because, you know, that's a whole heap of money, you know? We used to be able, some people used to be able to say that about lawyers, but well, no, lawyers don't got no money. But anyway, actuarial sciences, that's where the money is. And so the child in actuarial sciences, you hear the joke, oh, that's my pension plan, you know? And it's cute and it's funny and everybody chuckles, but it really isn't very funny. The fact of the matter is that it creates this intergenerational dependence. It creates this intergenerational financial pressure when you have to take care of your parents, when you have to try and take care of yourself. And then that distracts from you building up your own financial resilience. And so I'm not trying to say under any circumstances that parents sacrificing for their children to be in a better place to look after themselves and also support family, that's anything is wrong with it. I am saying that to the extent that we can break the cycle and you are able to save and create your own financial resilience so you don't have to look to a future generation to support you, that is important in breaking that intergenerational pressure, right? But the reality is that we have a retirement crisis facing us. COVID has not helped. When you think about the statistics coming out of the OECD and the World Bank, they said the biggest challenge facing most countries in Latin America and the Caribbean is a low coverage of formal pension systems. Right now, we have a coverage rate. When I say coverage rate, the number of persons working in Jamaica who have some kind of pension coverage, it's about 9 to 11%. When you factor public sector workers, that bounces up to about 18%. Hopefully that's going to get a little higher when we consider people in the tourism workers pension scheme. But the reality is that we have poor coverage. I go to international pension conferences and they talk, when people from other countries talk about, you know, we have a poor coverage system in our country, and they're like, you know, only 40% or only 60%. I'm just like, I would love if we could at least have 40% coverage in Jamaica. But it's actually an issue that's plaguing us. And so I think this is just a little quote that I found from the OECD that says, while the future development of the pandemic and its final impact on mortality and pension liabilities are subject to large uncertainty, i.e. we don't really know how COVID is going to ultimately affect our pension liabilities. Over the longer term, the newly accumulated debt is likely to put pressure on pension finances. In other words, because of COVID, people losing their jobs, job insecurity, etc., people have more expenses, more responsibilities, more obligations, and they're going to dip into their pension savings. They're going to use up their pension savings, right? And there are some countries that have allowed what you call hardship withdrawals. Jamaica is amending the legislation to allow for hardship withdrawals as well. That's actually something I could have used, put on a slide to share with you. But basically, you will be able to withdraw some of your contributions for hardship scenarios. One, it's going to be amended to say related to COVID, but by the time that becomes law, COVID will be long gone. But anyway, related to COVID, if you're at risk of losing your first home, to support you in acquiring your first home, if you're suffering a disability requiring you to retrofit your home, so there are funeral expenses. So there are a number of things that will be allowed for you to take your pension benefit before you're 65. And what's being proposed is that you can take up to 2 withdrawals during your lifetime, representing a maximum of 20% in your retirement account. So if you have $100 in your pension account, you can withdraw twice up to a maximum of, what's that, $20, right? Yeah, 20%, $20, right? So that's something that's being contemplated, and we expect to see that when the Pensions Act is amended. By the way, the Pensions Act is being amended for the last like 16 years. So let's wait and see. But I thought it was a big joke that when COVID happened, they were running to amend the legislation to allow people to take out the pension benefit. I mean, the last thing you want to be able to touch, you want people to be able to touch, but you know, it's this whole lives versus livelihood. People need people to get the money, people are suffering. Okay, fine. But then it takes so long that they haven't even passed any legislation to allow people to take out money because of COVID, you know, COVID hardship. Anyway, hardship withdrawals is something that is being contemplated. But I will say, just to share, that there are countries that got out of the starting blocks pretty quickly on that, Peru, Chile, and Bolivia, and they have experienced a significant impact on their GDP as a result of allowing for hardship withdrawals. And, you know, this is a cute little cartoon, right, where it talks about, I'm thinking about the job I'm going to have after I retire. And that's actually the reality for a lot of people, that once they leave their formal employment, they have to find something to do because they have to earn something because their retirement income is not sufficient. Why? Largely because they never saved as much as they could have when they had the opportunity. And so it's important that we find and implement effective strategies to ensure that we can save for retirement, increase financial resilience and retirement security in a kind of seamless and frictionless way. And there are a number of things that the Pension Industry Association in Jamaica is doing to try and encourage that. We can talk about that if we want in the other questions. Okay. Coming up, soon finish. Last thing, retirement insecurity and women. I really wanted to spend a little time on this because for the women who are in the room, I think it's important for you to understand just how bad it can be for us. So there was these statistics are coming out of an actuarial post. It's an article in a magazine called The Actuarial Post, right? And it was discussing some statistics from the UK that to have the same pension pot as a man, the woman should have started to work from 4 years old. In terms of thinking about that gender, that pay gap, to be in the same position as your male counterpart, you needed to have started to work at 4. You spend about 10 years away from the workforce to start families, care for elderly dependents, look after children. Oftentimes when you come back into the workplace, there are fewer opportunities for advancement and to earn higher salaries. This is just reality that we're facing. It's no different in Jamaica, because we talk about, we have the highest number of women in middle management, but not in top management positions. And it's not because we're not capable. And the article went on to say that women would need to work an additional 18 years in full-time employment to save the same amount of money into their pension as a working man. Put another way, we would need to work until age 83 to close the gender pension gap. Now, of course, like I said, these are statistics coming out of the UK, but the concept, it applies, right? Women are living on average 4 years longer, and this is important. Oftentimes, we don't think about the fact that for those of us who will get married or are married, you think about your spouse's income and that you're going to rely on your spouse's income. Sometimes your spouse's pension. When your spouse dies, that pension may stop, depending on the nature of the pension. And you are often likely to live that much longer than your spouse. And in any event, even if you're single, you just need to think about the fact that you're going to live longer. And so what are you going to have in place to ensure that you've taken care of yourself? Because we're not trying to look to our children to take care of us, right? And then that's so funny. This is a cute cartoon. Should we stay together for the sake of the kids? No, for the pension. No, stay together for the pension. And so we want to close off by saying goodbye tension, hello pension. Let's try and save for our pension retirement. I know it sounds so boring and like, oh my God, I don't need to think about pensions. I'm not that old. Listen, I cannot begin to tell you like when I was born in 1980, right? So I'm not even a millennial. When I was in a meeting the other day and an actuary says we need to provide for the people in the pension plan who are middle-aged. And she says like 40 and up. I nearly dropped off my chair because when she said it was a few years ago, I was about to turn 40 like the following year. And I was like, since when is 40 middle age? What on earth is happening here? So you see these little labels. I think the reality, guys, is that at 42, early retirement is 50. Under the pensions, retirement is 50. I am like, that's crazy. I don't feel old. I don't feel like retirement is something I should be thinking about. The reality is that I'm 8 years away from being eligible for early retirement in many pension arrangements. So, we got to think about it. You may feel like it's just not a big deal, but honestly, it is. It's important. And I'm telling you, I am a presenter speaking to you. I am one of the persons who hates to save. Like my husband says, I behave like a budget is a bad word. So I am not sitting here like I have it all together, right? I struggle to save, but one thing I don't play with is my pension savings every month. So I am, at a law firm where we have a pension plan for staff, not for partners. So you remember I was mentioning earlier that you can go to a company where they have a pension plan, but you're not eligible. So I am not eligible to join the HMF pension plan. It's only for our staff members. So partners are expected to make their own arrangements. And in this particular case, I practice what I preach. And so I contribute to NCB Smart. But I can tell you, just naturally, I don't want to save my money. I want to spend it. I don't want to spend all of it, honestly. So I'm just telling you that I get it. It's not easy. Sometimes the dollar can't stretch. You really do need to ensure that it's part of what your retirement program, your savings program is about. So we want to say goodbye tension and hello pension. And the last thing I want to say is thank you. And if you have any questions, please stop sharing.
Any questions, anyone? Thank you so much, Sanya.
You're welcome.
I don't see any questions in the chats.
Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead. We can hear you.
All right. I was starting to try and put a question in the chat, but okay. Excellent presentation.
Excuse me, I can see your name, but you can perhaps introduce yourself before you ask the question.
Right. All right. So the name is Carlton A. Gordon. By the way, are you hearing me without the fan interrupting?
I'm hearing you.
I'm hearing you, Mr. Gordon. Thank you.
Right. Okay. All right. So it's Carlton A. Gordon. I'll be 81 years old in 1 month.
Congratulations. I love that.
Yeah, will be the glory. I'm in the insurance and financial planning business, and despite all of that, and associated with many experts in the pension business, but I found your presentation excellent and with lots of useful information. It just occurred to me there are a couple of things. One, it might be useful to note that although it might not be so relevant at the highest levels of earnings, right? But to note that what you talk about, you call it the what? The opposite of the accumulation phase is the which phase again?
The decumulation. Mm-hmm.
Decumulation phase, right? So in that phase, your income is not automatically taxed, but it is taxable. It is subject to tax. Isn't that correct? In other
Right,
words,
because if you, depending on the threshold, depending on the
Right,
amount, because you may not
exactly.
hit the threshold, yes, yeah,
right.
correct.
So I kind of wanted to kind of highlight.
That's important, yes. You could be
Right.
below the tax threshold and so you're not. And then of course you can take a lump sum that's tax-free as well. So there are different ways in
Right.
which you can continue to get
Right.
benefits, yeah.
I also had a note about when you talk about, well, some of the interesting things that came out of this business of being able to give your pension or pass your pension resources after death, right? So the question was, what sort of, would you elaborate a little bit more? Although I think I see the answers already, but elaborate a little bit more on the business of what sort of pension benefits are available beyond death.
Right, so what I was saying is you can designate a beneficiary. So depending on the type of pension benefit you are getting under the retirement scheme or superannuation fund, you can name a pension beneficiary, right? So I can name Carlton to get my pension benefit after death. So it usually occurs in a case where you have a guaranteed pension. Most retirement schemes and employer pension plans, we call them superannuation funds,
Right.
give you a guaranteed pension. What that means is that you're guaranteed, let's say you reach retirement 65 or 60, whatever it is, you get a guaranteed pension of 5 years plus your life. So remember, your pension is always for your lifetime.
Right.
So if you retire at 65 and you can get hit by a bus and you're dead, your pension is over. Generally, because your pension is for life. But if you have a guaranteed pension for, let's say, typically in Jamaica, you see 5 years and life, it means that if you walk out on the street, get hit by a bus, the day you turn 65, they are guaranteeing, jump high, jump low, you will get a pension for 5 years. So that 5 years of pension that you don't get because you died would go to your beneficiary, for example.
Right.
That's an example. There are a number of scenarios, though, Mr. Gordon, where you could have chosen a joint life survivor, 10 years guaranteed. Some people don't want the guarantee period. They'll take the chance and they'll just see how long they live. And that means they get a little higher monthly payment than if you had a guarantee period. But that's an example of how you could have died in year 2 of retirement and you have 3 more years of your guaranteed pension. Your beneficiary would get those 3 years.
All right. So I was also thinking about how as valuable as this financial information is and it's important for it to be provided. And I think for your pension association, I'm sure you've actually mentioned some of these factors already, including the whole business about the children being pension and all that kind of stuff. So a number of things are very important to consider, right? Apart from just the financial part of it, right? The whole business of, when you talk about the children, the business of people actually living longer, right? And so, and the fact that, for instance, how important it is to remain healthy, because almost I think it can be argued that it could be nearly impossible to save enough money, right, to cover some of the major
Agreed.
things that could happen, right? So perhaps we need to factor in the whole business of having good relationships with everybody, including especially our family, right? And with the importance of taking care of our health, exercise, so that, and remembering that we are likely to live longer. So and also that business of, one of the things about a line that comes to me is about a very important retirement factor in retirement planning is to start with a job that you have no desire of ever retiring from, right? Because you enjoyed the thing so much. You know that line, that I mean, find that job that you
find that you love and you'll never work a day in your life.
And you never have to work a day in your life, right? So all those factors, but I'm kind of monopolizing senior, so I would back out at this stage of the game. But as I said, interesting stuff.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. And one of the things I thought you were going to say actually was the importance of insurance. Because sometimes that's, and maybe I'm not sure, Philippa, if that's been something you're thinking about presenting on, but understanding the benefits of health insurance, life insurance as well, are additional ways we can build up that financial resilience In addition
Definitely.
to, of course, pensions, yeah.
Definitely. In fact, it is, yeah, it is one way, yeah.
Yes.
And a very important way, including international health insurance that is currently available.
Yes, yes.
But
Thank you,
yeah.
Mr. Gordon. That's very helpful. And I welcome the perspective, especially from, somebody as experienced and with all the seniority and knowledge that you have. So I'm very grateful. Thank you.
And what you said?
No, the experience and knowledge and seniority
I
that you have.
I thought you said, and money, because people do that
No.
as well. But that's not true. But one quick thing, you're talking about the business of guaranteed periods, etc., etc. Let me share a quick thing that happened to me, and I want to alert people who are creative and authors and whatever, you tend not to think about these things and about money. So I came to the retirement stage, right? Official retirement stage. Incidentally, by the way, I tell people that I am a retiree that's not retiring, but refiring. Okay.
Oh, I love that. Love it. Love it. Love it.
But so I got to a stage now. I think I might have been 60-ish when I was dealing with an early retirement thing. I wanted to get a hold of my portion of the pension contributions to get out of debt and take control of my life and all that kind of stuff. And so, but of course, at 60, I'm thinking, okay, boy, by the time I get to 70 or 75, in other words, in another 10, 15 years, right, I am not going to be alive anyway, right? So I look at the options, joint and survival and stuff like that. And I say, I don't need to guarantee more than 10 years, right? But I think I've gone like 20 years beyond that now. And I to many people, I look, and certainly I feel as if I have another 40 years to go, right? And so I have to, but the good thing is that, so I did a thing where I just guaranteed for 10 years. And so that living after 10 years now, there's no guarantee after the extra 10 years, there's no guarantee in pension for my wife if I were to die, right? And she kind of not in the mood to forgive me for that, but the truth is that it's a good thing, right? That and the way we've operated, I've been the sole breadwinner and take full responsibility for everything, right? Yeah. So she could be if she's not careful, she could be in trouble if I have to die. But the point now, the good thing is that I don't look or feel as if I'm about to die anytime soon, and I've taken responsibility. Of course, in the meantime, you have reserves and credit union insurance and various things, right? I mean, to cover certain angles. But the point is, the main point I'm making here is how important it is to be aware of the possibilities of long life and so on and so forth, and take those things into consideration when you're deciding on how to deal with the, what you call it, the deceleration, the decumulation stage.
Yeah, decumulation.
Okay, that's it.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon.
You are most welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Gordon. Any other questions? Please feel free. We have the expert here.
Are you hearing me?
You may go ahead, introduce yourself and pose your question.
Eternal McCormack. Did you get that?
We did. Thank you so much. Go ahead with your question.
No, I happened to join the meeting later than it started. But I heard you mention early on about you register until you're 65. No, the program is just starting, isn't it? For writers, is that correct? What about those who are over 65? What's the benefits there for them? Hello?
So in terms of saving in like a retirement scheme, because most people who are over 65 generally are not in payroll for formal work and contracts, not many people are. most of the retirement schemes, Mr. McCormack, allow you to participate up to 69. But if you've passed 69, you don't find that you'd be eligible, because the maximum age you can leave a retirement scheme, you can't stay in a retirement scheme beyond 70. So they'll take you at 69 and you can just contribute for a year. But if you've passed 69, you wouldn't, retirement schemes and of course, and employer pension plans would not be available to you because you wouldn't be eligible to participate.
So shouldn't something be considered for these people then?
Well, I think a big part of it is how you price the pension benefit. I mean, we're getting into some technical areas now, but when you have to do things like, you know, purchase a pension for somebody who is just contributing at the age of 69 or 70, oftentimes that we are procuring what we call the annuity, the actual pension benefit. And so you don't find that pension, that annuity providers are providing annuities for persons who are 75 or 80. They're, in other words, who have just been contributing since they've become 75 or 80. It's not worth it to them. There's no benefit in it. And so for people who are that age, who are now looking to save for retirement, I wouldn't say that the retirement scheme is really a viable option for you. It would have to be just, you know, whatever you're able to save while for the remainder of the time that you're working. But there are no actual retirement scheme providers that go beyond 69.
May I?
And just to say, the maximum that you can stay in a retirement scheme or a superannuation fund is 70.
May I suggest
Yeah.
here that
Yes, Mr. Gordon.
this is a point where it becomes important to recognize that, okay, to take responsibility, right? In other words, where information is useful. In other words, so even if the formal official retirement scheme thing is not available, if you understand the principle, yeah, what becomes important now is for, with as much of the time as you have left beyond 60, 65, right? And if you are confident and recognize that you are going to be living, you're likely, right? Of course, you can die tomorrow, but you're likely to live 15, 20 more years, right? So what it means at that point now is that it becomes even more important now, or becomes very important, in addition to staying healthy and what have you, that you have the resources you have. In other words, if you may have had some savings not outside of a formal pension scheme, so it becomes more important for you to learn and understand how you can work with what you have. If for instance, if you had a big lump sum of money, you inherited something, right? You could at that point, right, use this big sum of money to purchase an annuity, right? To make sure now that from this point on, this money can be used to purchase an annuity, which will give you an income either from now or down the road, that you can, just like the normal pension thing where you have this guaranteed amount of monthly income that you cannot outlive, right? You guarantee it for the rest of your life. So you use this sum of money now, right? And you and that is used to purchase an annuity that will give you a guaranteed income for the rest of your life, whether it's small or big. But the thing about it is, you cannot outlive it, right? So there are ways you can do that if you have the resources or can find the resources to finance it.
Yes, but what about those who don't have? Are you hearing me?
Go ahead, Mr. McCormack.
Yeah, so what about those who don't have? Now, this scheme is what? Mainly for writers or creative people on a whole?
Oh, let me clarify. I think there's some misunderstanding. We're
Right.
not offering a scheme. What we're seeking to do is to provide information on pensions and how you can best save towards your pension and look towards your future. So there's no scheme that is being offered here. What Mrs. Goff has just done is to present on the options and suggestions, recommendations, and enlighten us on the area. But perhaps what Mr. McCormack, what you need to do is consult a investment manager at one of the investment houses. And as Mr. Gordon has suggested, work best now with what you perhaps have and to see how you can best invest and save for the future. So it would not be considered a pension plan per se, but it will be your pension plan. So what your plan is for your future.
Yes, I do get that. But so what you're really collecting here then is information on how to proceed.
Correct. Proceed with a plan, not a particular plan. There's no particular plan that's being presented, but just general information on pensions and what is best under the circumstances.
Well, I would suggest that you really give due consideration to those who are 65 and over, because considering that just as writers, songwriters and artists and things, we have been through a lot of unscrupulous, the worst kind of exploitation producers, and have not been able. A lot of the pioneers have not been able to accumulate anything. Some of them can't even find food. It's as bad as that. Of them sick, them can't find medication and all that sort of thing, which is no fault of theirs. It's just the teeth in it, some of the produce to them, which we badly. So I'm asking, please, I'm pleading for all of us to reconsider consider some clauses that can allow the 65 and over to get some benefit. Because we as artists have made tremendous contribution, towards development of our race and our nation. And we put Jamaica on the map worldwide. We deserve better than that. Some of people them just use you and fling away like one old bungalow, an old dirty bungalow. You see, we can't do that. We have to pay more due respect to our artists and our creative people. So please think about it.
Thank you, sir, for your comments. What you're perhaps thinking of is some social intervention, perhaps by the government, offered perhaps through either the Ministry of Labor or the Ministry of Culture. But thank you so much for your comments. They're definitely noted and valid.
Yes, but I'm thinking of how, if the artists or the writers getting some form of money, how you could deduct that from his or her royalties and set up some sort of scheme. Me not depend on a government. You can't depend on politicians for nothing. Them unreliable and so them lie and thief like a warrior. No, them just confide with my producers them because they are seeking vote on me if I talk the truth. So they don't want to do anything to upset anything with that. Although they have done quite a bit. We say a whole lot more left to be done. Look how much artists dead gone and not even one piece of dry bread. Think about that Roy Wilson, for instance. Just an example. The producers fuck him out to frazzle.
Thank you, sir. Very valid comments, but unfortunately, that ongoing problem is not something that we can address at this moment, but definitely very valid and noted. Thank you again.
Bless you.
Do we have any other questions or comments? I'll give 2 more minutes. If there are no more, then we can, I think, conclude. Let's wait a minute or so.
It's Karine.
Yes,
Karine.
sir, Gordon.
I'm just thinking quietly that, I'm being semi-facetious when I put it this way, but only semi-facetious, right? To say, if you remind me, I would probably talk to you a little bit and show you and show you, provide some ways that JAMCOPY may or some kind of partnership may be developed between JAMCOPY and some broker provider, whatever you, to come up with a scheme as that that Mr. McCormack is asking for. Something even like along the lines of the tourism thing that that is currently, on. So we can talk if necessary.
Feel free to reach out and we can definitely continue this discussion.
No
Thank you
problem.
so much.
Right.
I think we're there. Philippa, any closing comments? Sanya, anyone wishes to say anything?
Well, we certainly want to thank Mrs. Goff again for really informative and entertainingly delivered presentation. Really appreciate for the food for thought that she has given to us this afternoon. Truly appreciate her giving us her time. And we also want to appreciate the sprightly participation of our octogenarian, Mr. Gordon, who has given us the buzzword for the afternoon, hashtag don't retire, refire.
Love
So
it.
thank you very much, Mr. Gordon, for sharing from your own life wisdom and experience. We really appreciate it. So thank you to all of our stakeholders who joined us this afternoon. And we look forward to having you at the next conversation. We will be in touch with you.
Sorry, Philippa, before we conclude, I failed to mention and recognize one of our directors of JAMCOPY, Director Reedwall, who is actually in her own right somewhat of a retirement specialist. And she has 2 books on retirement. Director Reedwall, would you wish to make any type of contribution at this point?
Presentation, and I do have 2 books on retirement. One is Retirement and New Agenda. That's for the older persons, the pre-retirees.
You're breaking up. Perhaps you can type the name of your books in the chat because we're not hearing you clearly.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll type the name of the books. But thank you.
Thank you so much all for attending.
I can add that Mrs. Reedwall was our presenter last October on retirement. So affiliates, you can visit the JAMCOPY channel to view that presentation on retirement. So you can feel free to visit the channel for all the previous presentations, and we will be uploading today's presentation as well. So if you came in late and just want to listen again, do visit the JAMCOPY YouTube channel. It's JAMCOPY Jamaica. JAMCOPY Jamaica. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Philippa. Thank you, everyone.
Posted, Director. Thank you so much. And a good evening to all and safe travel to wherever you are destined this evening. Goodbye.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye, guys. Thanks for having me.
Thank you again, Sanya. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.